Welcome back, Lorcana players, it's Poisonous. We're back at it again with another gameplay video. This is from my local league, so it's a live game that we filmed that I wanted to show you guys. It's a red-blue matchup versus green-blue. Green-blue is an interesting deck that has the potential to maybe beat up on some of the weaknesses of the Sapphire decks. As always, thanks for checking out the videos. Please support the channel by subscribing, and it'll keep the good content coming. So the deck lists are posted in the description to the video. So the red-blue list is your standard Sisu deck with a couple Tamatoas, and I'm running a couple items just for a little bit of spice. And the green-blue deck is your Clarabelle control bounce everything deck. So let's hop into the gameplay. So game 1, green-blue is on the play. So they start off by inking a location and playing a small Clarabelle. We're going to ink a Brawl, play Popsicle to draw, set up our item for our Hiram later. They ink Kick Cloud Kicker, play a Tipo, which allows them to ramp. So we ink Sail to play a Tipo of our own and ink a card. Our opponent plays the turn 3 Muses, which is their ideal opening. That means that they can start using their songs to bounce our characters. They quest with Tipo here. They don't exert the Clarabelle, which implies that they're getting ready to shift Clarabelle next. So we're going to go ahead and Brawl the Clarabelle, or Sisu the Clarabelle in this case, to remove it to prevent the shift line, and then we'll quest with our Tipo since it's most likely going to be bounced. So they quest with Tipo, they play You're Welcome on their own Tipo to draw 2 cards, fueling them up. This card's interesting, so you don't have to necessarily target your opponent's stuff, you can target your own when it's convenient for you to do so, but they do trigger the Muses off the You're Welcome to return the Sisu to our hand. So they play another Tipo, inking, then they ink for turn, and pass. So at this point, my assumption is that they still have the big Clarabelle in hand, and they're going to be able to play it next turn for cost, because they're up to 6 ink already. So we ink Brawl, we set up our Sapphire Coil, and for 3, we replay the Sisu they bounce to clear out their Tipo, and then we quest with our Tipo. So they play 1 jump ahead, which lets them ink the top card of their deck and send the Sisu back to our hand again. At this point, they'd be afraid of us shifting because we're going to 6 ink this turn, so if we have big Sisu, we could shift and take out their Muses. So we pay 4 for Hiram, we banish our item to draw 2 cards, we're going to ink an extra Hiram here, and we'll play Vision of the Future. At this point, we're going to be looking for cards like big Sisu to try and deal with the Muses that they have on board. So they do play the Clarabelle as expected. Now they get to draw a lot of cards, so the matchup becomes quite difficult, because now they're going to be able to keep up on resources. So we have Hiram saying How Far I'll Go. And we play Let It Go to remove their Clarabelle. Gives them an ink, but it stops them from constantly refilling their hand every turn. For 1, we play another Popsicle, and we ink a Sail and quest with our Tipo. So Hiram is good, but the Muses can keep bouncing it back to hand, which means that we won't get a lot of value because we're going to have to pay 4 to use this effect every turn that we want to use them. So Muse sings How Far I'll Go, and the Muse trigger sends Hiram back to hand. They play 1 jump, and then they bounce the Tipo back to hand with Muses. So you can see they're building a lot of resources, and they're controlling our board. They play Clarabelle and pay 2 for the kicker to remove our Sapphire Coil. And then they set up 2 locations. So we pay 8 for big Sisu. This gets rid of their 2 characters, gets rid of the Muses that we've been kind of being frustrated with, and now we just have to try and work on getting their locations off the board. Play another Clarabelle, bouncing our item to our discard, and they return the big Sisu to hand, trying to protect their location. So we pay 3 for Little Sisu, which is a nice shift line for our big one. Getting rid of their Clarabelle, and we play Maui, which is ideal here because it gets rid of location, and we have bodies that we can deal with the McDuck Manor next turn. I do forget to exert the Maui here, and we play a Vision of the Future. We pay 6 to develop Half Shark. Now we have quite a large board on our side. Play Tipo. So even if they play a Bend to My Will at this point, it's not as devastating as it could have been. Our opponent sets up another Dreaded Muses. They play You're Welcome. This time they use it on their own location to get some cards, and then they use Muse Trigger to bounce the Sisu, so we can't do the shift, clear out their Muses. We do have enough ink at this point to play it anyway, but at least it stops us from playing it and questing, slows us down. They do play Mother Knows Best, bouncing the Shark, and then Muse the Tipo back to hand. So we went from having quite a large board to having a small board again. The green deck is very strong with all the bounce cards. So we're going to get rid of the Muses to stop it from, constantly bouncing our stuff. We'll replay the Tipo. We don't have anything for Maui to sing. Obviously, it would be ideal here if we had like a How Far I'll Go or something for him to do to get a little bit of value, but he's just going to chill there for a turn. So our opponent plays Ursula. They find the Pirate's Life in our hand and we discard it. But our opponent doesn't have much of a board here, so we can start to take control of this game now. So we play the Half Shark, and this time we do have a How Far I'll Go, so we gain a lore for the Half Shark, and we get to put 1 card in our ink and 1 in our hand. So we quest for 4, brings us even and pass turn. Our opponent plays in a How Far I'll Go of their own. They're going to be looking for Bend to My Will at this point, try and cut off the cards that we do have in our hand. They did see that we have Tamatoa, for example, which is going to get some value if we can get it back on the board next turn. But our opponent is in a bit of a struggle here because they do have not much in the way of board presence, and we do have a lot, and they don't have any characters to really facilitate singing and bouncing off our board. So we draw a Grammatala, which lets us look at 2 cards. Take Sapphire Coil, and then we quest out with all our characters, going up to 15. Alright, and game 1 is over. We did take that one on the draw, which is nice. So our opponent inks Ursula, plays Clarabelle. We ink a Tamatoa to play a Popsicle, draw a card. Our opponent plays a 1 jump ahead as their ramp. We play Sail after inking Grammatala. Just us ink a card because we have Popsicle in hand. Means that we're going to get to develop another item here, cycle through our deck a little bit faster. Our opponent plays a Vision of the Future, which tells me that they don't have the Muses to set up on turn 3, which is a relief for us, but it means that they're probably going to be able to find something useful here. Our opponent inks Kit Cloud Kicker, and they play a 1 jump, so they do get to still ramp here. Means that they're able to play Big Clarabelle next turn if we're not able to remove their Clarabelle here. So we do Brawl it, just to prevent that from happening. We ink Grammatala, and that's it for our turn. Our opponent does nothing, they just ink and pass. So we play Hiram, banish Popsicle to draw 2. And we set up our testing card, the Imperial Proclamation. It lets you reduce the cost of the next character you play for each character you challenge with during a turn. As expected, our opponent does play the Clarabelle. We do have a lot of cards in hand. They do get some good value here. Now our worry is that they're going to play Bend and remove all of our cards from our hand. So we ink a Vision, we set up a Half Shark, and we pass. I don't want to use Hiram and banish an item to draw more cards because it's going to give them more Clarabelle value. And if they do Bend, hopefully they can't remove the Hiram, and then we can use him to start refilling our hand. They do play Muses, which is never good for us because it means they're going to be able to bounce Hiram and start doing annoying stuff. So they use Clarabelle to sing Mother Knows Best, returning Shark to our hand, and Muses sending Hiram back to hand. So they pay for Clarabelle, they get rid of our Imperial Proclamation, and now they draw cards for Clarabelle's end of turn effect. Fortunately, we don't have a good answer here for their board, so it feels like we're kind of stuck in a situation where they're going to get some value. We just wipe the board and pass, so now if they play Bend, we're going to be in a really bad situation because we don't have anything on our side, and they do have a good amount of cards in their hand, so they do have the Bend. So we lose Sisu, Half Shark, Medusa, Sapphire Coil, and something else. So at this point we're in complete top deck mode. We do draw Shark, which is pretty good, but if they have any removal or bounce, then it's just going to get sent out of here. So they play a Grandma and Tipo this turn. We're not playing big threats, but they're not going to exert, so our Shark's not going to get a lot of value unless we can draw into some cards to sing or play and get some passive lore from his effect. We do draw Sail, which gains us a lore, lets us draw a card into Vision of the Future. We quest for one with Maui and pass. Didn't have enough ink left to take or play the card that we took. So they play Clarabelle, they bounce our character, they establish another location. So we replay the Shark, we ink Tipo, and pass, so we're feeling pretty exposed in this board state. They play Muses. How far I'll go. They play an Ursula, seeing that the card in hand we have is Hiram. And then they play out another location. So they don't exert any characters, knowing that we have a Be Prepared in our discard that we could get back with Shark. They don't want us to be able to do that to this board. So we do play Hiram. We draw 2 cards off our Popsicle. We ink a Hiram. We get to set up an Imperial Proclamation. Play a Sisu, we remove their Ursula, and we take out one of their locations. Our Shark gets bounced back to hand, and then our Hiram goes back to hand, and then they play another Bend, getting rid of our Shark and Hiram, leaving us with just a lone Sisu. Now they're able to quest with everything. So they do leave the Muses up in case, I guess, we get a Maui. Draw How Far I'll Go. Into Sail, into another Sisu. So at this point the game's pretty much over. We have only inconsequential characters and they have a big board, and we don't have anything unless we top deck like Be Prepared this turn. So I sack both Sisus here to discount the Hiram by 2, so when we play him, we can banish it to draw 2 and still have enough ink left to play Be Prepared, which we wouldn't be able to do if we paid full price for Hiram, but we didn't get it, so game is over. So in that game, they were able to impose their will by making us discard our whole hand and then building a board with lots of resources, and we weren't able to top deck our way out of it. We'll move on to game 3. In game 3, we're going to be on the play. We ink a Vitalosphere to play Vitalosphere. Our opponent inks Grammatala. They don't have a turn 1 play. We ink Brawl. We play Tipo, so we do get our ramp. They play Tipo of their own, so they're also ramping. We get our Hiram down, drawing 2 cards. This helps our hand in terms of fuel, but it is of course a risk against this deck because of the Clarabelle. They establish Muses on board, which was very frustrating because of our Hiram. And then they have Tipo sing 1 jump, and now our Hiram is off the board, so we can't sing How Far I'll Go. So we pay 2 for Sapphire Coil. We ink Hiram. And we pay 3 for Sisu to get rid of their Tipo, and then quest with ours. So in this board state, we do have a potential shift line on the Sisu if we get up to 6 ink next turn. So they're going to be mindful of that and try and prevent us from shifting. They play You're Welcome on the Sisu, shuffling it into our deck. So we draw 2 cards, and then they bounce the Tipo to our hand with the Muse trigger. So they are obviously playing hard around the shift Sisu line, which is smart by them and frustrating for us. I draw 2 for You're Welcome and 1 for turn. So on this board we ink Pirate's Life. We play How Far I'll Go. And for 2 we play Sail, which lets us draw and ink again. So we ink a sail. I'm trying to get the cards out of my hand as much as I possibly can to prevent value for Clarabelle, or if they play Bend, at least we have the most resources we possibly can down on the board here. And of course they do play the Clarabelle. So we ink Hiram, which lets us shrink Clarabelle. Pay 2 Tipo, which lets us shrink Clarabelle again, so that she's down to a low enough attack that we can brawl. She only has 1 strength. And then I play Vision of the Future. Getting rid of the Clarabelle is important to stop them from getting value, but we're still at risk of being hit hard by a Bend to My Will here. So our opponent plays How Far I'll Go, and then they bounce Tipo to our hand. And then they set up a McDuck Manor. Since we have nothing on the board, it seems like a pretty strong play here. And then they sing another How Far I'll Go. Just trying to sculpt their hand, look for answers, build up their inkwell. So we do have Big Sisu, which lets us get the Clarabelle off the board, the Muses off the board. And we play Tipo. If we're able to keep a little bit of momentum here, we can probably get the McDuck Manor next turn, but our opponent's going to do their best to try and slow us down, bounce our characters, and keep getting value out of that McDuck. So they play another big Clarabelle, which is frustrating. It means we're going to have to answer it. They do play Kit, bouncing the Tipo back to hand. We pay 2 for Sail. And then we play a Maui to take out the location. We play Tipo and pass. Our opponent plays Vision. In this board state, they're probably looking for Bend, take away what's left of our hand. They pay 2 for Sapphire Coil. So their Kit sings 1 jump, which lets Sapphire Coil reduce the strength of our Sisu. And then they do take out Sisu with Clarabelle, and then they drop another big Clarabelle. So we're forced into doing Be Prepared there since we don't have a board to deal with the 2 Clarabelles that they have. And we play out another Tipo. We don't have a lot of resources and we keep getting plagued by small characters. They play Muses and then they Bend. Now we're back down to 0 cards and they have a Muses established. We get Popsicle, draw, and play out a Coil. So we play Sail, draw a card, and we pass here. Go, because the Muses was warded, I wouldn't be able to use it anyway. Play a Pirate's Life to gain a couple lore, take back some from the opponent, and pass. So all we can do right now is stall a little bit and hopefully draw into something good like a big Sisu here. So they do blow up the Popsicle. And then we top deck another Coil. So the top deck's definitely not in our favor in this game. For the amount of big value characters that we have, to keep drawing all our small stuff is pretty frustrating. Our opponent, You're Welcome's their own character to draw 2 cards, and they do bounce our Tipo back to hand. So we replay the Tipo and pass. They shift on Clarabelle with Baymax, quest with Muses, and then they blow up one of our coils. We do draw a shark. We're able to hide away, get rid of their item, which just gains us a lore basically for the shark. They look in our hand, and of course it's just the Tipo from before, and then they bounce the shark back to hand, so preventing us from getting anything on the go. Now they can quest again, and we're not able to pull back the B prep from our discard. They do have Lorthal. We stall them a turn by playing a Pirate's Life, knocking them down out of range. But if we don't draw the Be Prepared this turn, then we definitely are out of here. So they shift another Baymax. And they got it. So it was good games. As you can see, he played the deck very well, capitalized on the weaknesses of, the fact that we have such large characters that when he bounces them back, that they gain a lot of tempo, and keeps all of our low strength characters off the board using Muses. And then Clarabelle refuels them while they play Bend. Thanks for watching the video. Drop a comment, let me know what you think of the live game content. It's a new format that I'm experimenting with for the channel, so I'd love to hear your feedback. And as always, thanks so much for your support and watching the video. Please like, subscribe, and have a great day.